Close your eyes. Not because the world is loud, but because it lies quietly. Take a slow breath. Have you ever believed something only because everyone around you believed it too? Hold that feeling. That moment of doubt. That is where Voltaire lives. Before we go deeper, tell me something. Where are you right now? Are you sitting or lying down? Is there light around you or darkness? And what time is it where you are listening to this? Morning? Late night? That quiet hour when the world finally loosens its grip? Hold that moment in your mind. Not the place, the feeling. Because this journey doesn't work if you're half here. Voltaire does not speak to distracted minds. He speaks to those willing to be present. So stay with me right here. Because what comes next is not history. It is a mirror. He was not born Voltaire. He was born François-Marie Arouet. Paris. 1694. A city of candlelight and shadows. Of silk coats. And silent suffering. Of churches that spoke of heaven, while hell operated efficiently on earth. France was ruled by certainty. The king ruled by divine right. The church ruled by divine truth. The aristocracy ruled by divine entitlement. And the people, they obeyed, not because they were foolish, but because questioning reality itself felt impossible. Truth had an accent. Power had a voice. And doubt had nowhere safe to sit. Into this world came a boy with a sharp mind and an even sharper tongue. Voltaire did not shout. He smiled. And that smile was dangerous. Because a smiling skeptic is harder to execute than an angry rebel. As a child, Voltaire noticed something unsettling. The people who spoke most confidently about God were often the least compassionate. The men who preached morality were remarkably comfortable with cruelty. And the rules always protected the powerful and punished the curious. This troubled him. Not loudly. Quietly. He learned Latin. He learned poetry. He learned how to turn questions into jokes. Because jokes slip past guards that logic cannot. Voltaire discovered early that laughter is not the opposite of seriousness. It is its sharpest form. At 23, he learned another lesson. Words have weight. He wrote verses, mocking powerful nobles, not calling for revolution, not demanding blood, simply exposing how absurd authority looks when stripped of ceremony. For this, he was sent to the Bastille, a prison not just for criminals, but for inconvenient thinkers. Imagine that. Stone walls, built to silence sentences. Voltaire sat in that cell and learned something permanent. Power fears thought more than weapons. And if truth frightens authority, then truth matters. After his release, Voltaire did not become careful. He became exact. He understood now that the world was not hostile to ignorance. It was hostile to clarity. So he refined his weapon. Wit. He dressed philosophy in humor, wrapped criticism in elegance, smuggled doubt into polite conversation. And the world laughed. Sometimes without realizing what it was agreeing to. Then came exile. England. A place Voltaire did not expect to admire. There, he saw something radical. Not perfection, but permission. People criticized kings and lived. Multiple religions existed without endless slaughter. Scientists argued publicly. Philosophers debated openly. Ideas collided instead of disappearing. For Voltaire, this was a revelation. Not because England was ideal, but because disagreement was allowed. When he returned to France, he was transformed and dangerous. He began attacking the holy trinity of oppression. Blind faith, absolute monarchy, inherited privilege. But he did not preach. He entertained. Plays, essays, satire. And then, Candide. Candide appears innocent, almost childish. But it is a philosophical trap. A story that smiles while cutting deep. Candide is taught that this is the best of all possible worlds. And then, war happens. Earthquakes happen. Slavery happens. Rape happens. And philosophers keep explaining why suffering is necessary. Voltaire is not mocking pain. He is mocking those who justify it. He is saying, if your philosophy requires misery to function, then your philosophy is broken. Voltaire believed in God, but not the God of prisons. Not the God of forced belief. Not the God who demands silence instead of compassion. He was a deist. God as creator, not dictator. Reason as responsibility, not rebellion. To Voltaire, faith without reason was not devotion. It was submission. And submission is not virtue. His most famous idea, that speech must be free, even when it offends. Because once speech requires permission, truth becomes a hostage. Voltaire understood this deeply. Free speech is not meant to protect comfort. It is meant to protect thought. He watched people executed for believing incorrectly. Watched certainty burn human beings alive. And he dedicated his life to fighting fanaticism. Not with violence, but with exposure. Because fanaticism collapses when seen clearly. Voltaire was not perfect. He was arrogant, elitist, impatient. He trusted reason more than people. But he was honest. And honesty is rare in times of certainty. When he died in 1778, the church refused him burial. Even in death, authority feared him. But history had already decided. His ideas survived. Their enemies. And they still whisper. Question gently. Laugh carefully. Think freely. Because the moment you stop questioning, someone else will happily do it for you. Voltaire was not interested in building a perfect system. He was interested in breaking dangerous ones. That difference matters. Voltaire's philosophy does not begin with answers. It begins with suspicion. Suspicion of certainty. Suspicion of authority. Suspicion of anyone who claims to possess final truth. Because Voltaire believed the most violent ideas are not born from hatred. They are born from certainty. To Voltaire, the problem was never belief. The problem was unquestioned belief. When belief stops listening, it becomes a weapon. And history, in Voltaire's time, was soaked in blood, spilled in the name of being right. Voltaire did believe in God, but not the God who demands obedience at the cost of reason. He was a deist. He believed the universe had order, design, intelligence. But once created, it was handed over to human responsibility. No divine micromanagement. No sacred permission slips. Just reason. And reason, for Voltaire, was sacred. He believed reason was humanity's only defense against cruelty disguised as morality. Without reason, religion becomes fanaticism. Politics becomes tyranny. Tradition becomes a prison. Voltaire did not reject religion. He rejected religious power. The moment belief demands silence, it has lost its moral authority. To Voltaire, faith should comfort the weak, not terrorize them. If belief requires prisons, burnings, or censorship, then it is not faith. It is fear. Wearing holy clothes. Voltaire would not tell you what to believe. He would ask you why you believe it, and then smile. If this kind of thinking slows you down, if it makes you pause, if it helps you breathe inside a noisy world, then stay here. Subscribe. Not for answers, but for better questions. Because clarity begins where certainty ends.